the whole economic symposium. This year's theme is labor market in transition, demographies, macroeconomic policy in focus. Varun is here to tell us what's all the expectation is about. Varun.
Well, so the Jackson Hole Symposium has started and it would end on the 23rd of August, and this year the theme is labor market in transition, demographics, productivity and macroeconomic policy. Now all eyes would be on the speech of Jerome Powell, that is the Fed chairperson, and he would be speaking on the 22nd of August, that is Friday. This would be his 8th speech in Jackson Hole, because before this he has given 7 speeches, and by far this would be the last speech of Jerome Powell as Fed chairman in Jackson Hole, because next year in the month of May his term as the Fed chairman will actually end. And if you look at the economic data of US, the inflation data, the jobs data, the overall signals are very confusing. And also if you look at the FOMC minutes, there it has been said that the tariff effect may take longer to materialize, and also majority of Fed members view inflation as a bigger risk than employment. So all eyes would be on Fed chairman's speech, what he speaks on the overall rate cut for the September policy, because many are expecting a 25 basis rate cut, many are expecting that there would be no rate cut, because if you look at the money market, till last week they were expecting there were 90% chances that there would be a rate cut. Now the expectations have actually come down to around 73%. So this would be a precursor to the September policy, and all eyes would be on the speech of the Fed chairman Jerome Powell, and this would be his last speech, so the importance actually increases because of that as well.
Okay, Varun, thanks so much for taking us through that. Of course, that's going to be the next big trigger for the market to watch out for. Fed Chair Jerome Powell's last speech in his capacity as the Fed Chair is going to be later tonight for us. We have both our techies back with us as well. But let's also welcome on board Nitin Raheja, Executive Director at Julius Baer Wealth Advisors. And Nitin, hi, thanks so much for your time. Let's take that conversation ahead. My colleague Varun was highlighting what the street expectation is with respect to the rate cut that one could anticipate to see in September. Where are you placing your bets when it comes to a rate cut, and what do you have to say on the cascading impact it could have on our financials back home?
I think our global view is that we are expecting the first of the rate cuts to start taking place. However, given the data that seems to be coming out, it's very confusing and heading for mixed signals. But I think whichever way you look at it, the fact of the matter is Mr. Trump is going to outlast Mr. Powell. So we are going to see, if not September, we are going to see rate cut in the next meets. So I think clearly, directionally, we are going to see some of that happening before the end of the year. In which case, I think what we believe is that there is a case for a weaker dollar, which sort of portends well for EMs.
Well, yes, a weaker dollar could be good for the EMs, but Nitin, along with that, also help us understand back home, what are your sector likings at this point in time? Because, well, of course, we have discussed much in detail how this GST can give a boost to the economy and the different sectors as well. But along with that, post the earnings as well, we have seen a lot of sector churning that was already at play. What are your bets right now?
It's this is actually a very, very difficult phase in the markets, because we are seeing a progressive sort of earnings estimates getting downgraded for some time. And simultaneously, the markets for the last 1 year have done nothing. So, you're also seeing a P multiple derating starting to take place as markets don't go anywhere, and earnings at whatever slow pace are yet sort of growing, at 9 or 10% and so on and so forth. Our own view is that I think we believe with all the measures that have gone towards domestic consumption, and considering the state of the world that we find ourselves in with the tariffs and so on and so forth, I think very clearly the government realizes that for the economy to remain robust, to sort of counteract the so-called tariff penalties that have been imposed upon us. Consumption, which is almost 60% of our GDP, needs to come back and do very well. And hence, whether it was the tax change that happened in the budget, or the measures in terms of more liquidity in the economy, lowering interest rates proactively, and now talking of a GST cut. I think clearly these measures with a lag will probably see a revival of domestic consumption. So we like consumption. We have a large part of our portfolio position for that play in consumption. We are playing it a little cautiously. We have uh, premium consumption or premiumization of consumption as a theme, which is a part of the consumption which is more resilient as a part of our portfolios, as well as now we're looking at the broader consumption theme for the lower K of the consumption that has taken place. So we are seeing that happen. At the same time, we also believe a lot of NBFCs and banks are a proxy play for the revival of consumption. So I think we are using that as the other one. The third theme that we see, which is very very resilient, is the power transmission capex theme. I think that's the third theme which is showing a great amount of resilience in the form of the kind of spending that is happening and the order books that are happening.